This is Kamar Shima, and I'm thrilled to have with me Dr. Najah Latebi. She's a Middle East expert. She has done his research on the GCC and how the relations are between the Great Britain and the Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much, Dr. Najah, for your time.
My pleasure.
My first question to you is that how do you see the rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia? What do you think that how it is going to affect the GCC and the larger Muslim world?
Well, I think this is an important development. Saudi Arabia look at China as an important strategic partner. The relationship between the two countries dated back to around 8 decades. China has been the largest exporter of Saudi oil. It's also the largest trade partner. But the relations between the two countries were purely economic. What we see now is that China has begun to look at itself and its presence in the region as a potential party that could involve in politics. It sees its role as an important in geopolitics, and its involvement could bring parties together, could resolve conflicts in the region, especially that the United States is showing indifference towards the problem in the Middle East recently. For example, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the reluctance of supporting Saudi Arabia in Yemen, this have left a vacuum that the Chinese now is filling. China also wants this problem between Iran and Saudi Arabia to be resolved because it's important for its interest. The Chinese are very particular in developing their economy, and all of these initiatives we have seen over the last few years. For example, the Belt and Road Initiative, it needs a collaboration between different continents, between different countries. It's in the interest of China to see a peaceful Middle East.
So, Dr. Najah, how do you see that when Donald Trump won elections back in 2016, he came in Saudi Arabia and the King Salman brought every leader from the Muslim world and they were standing behind Donald Trump. But this time when President Xi visited Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, every Arab leader was behind. So, do you find this a clear shift of the Saudi Arabia? What do you make of this?
Well, we always hear assumptions that Saudi Arabia might move towards China and leave the United States. I don't see it this way. I think the Saudis want to have an equal relations between them and China and them and the United States. I don't think the Chinese or the Americans will replace each other. Both are beneficial for Saudi Arabia. It's that the Saudis are now having different priorities than the ones they had in the past. For example, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman priority relies on the need to diversify allies and have different partners and not only have a cooperation with one region or one country. The Saudis will not leave the United States. The Saudis still sell their oil in dollars, so they are linked to the United States. Also the defense infrastructure in Saudi Arabia heavily reliance on the United States and the American expertise. It's not easy to move to China. But on the other hand, the Saudis want the Chinese, the investors, want to develop further relationship with Asia because this is important for their Vision 2030 and the need to diversify their economy and their dependence on oil. So both countries are important to Saudi. The Saudis are playing it smart, I think.
Hmm. So, it is being considered that the Saudi-Iran rapprochement is just beyond normalization relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia. The West is looking this very, carefully. Do you think that this decades-old animosity, which was at the societal level and which was at the state level, uh, uh, do you think that the public, the society, the governments, it will be 180-degree shift, or do you think that it will take some time to normalize all these relations? And one more thing, do you think that this is just between Saudi Arabia and Iran, or this will also be between GCC and Iran?
Well, I think the Middle East is tired of conflicts, and Iran and Saudi Arabia as well. Escalation with Iran is not good for Saudi Arabia. It actually poses a threat to its Vision 2030 and the need to attract foreign investors, to attract tourists. Nobody would go to a country that has a threat, political threat from other neighboring country. So Saudi needs that reapproachment. They need to have peace with Iran. Iran as well. It is isolated. It's under section, economically struggling, and it needs Saudi Arabia and the neighboring GCC. Um, so this is important for both countries.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah.
Okay. So, Dr. Najah, how do you see this Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030? Do you think that there is some transformation and the society is embracing it the way the leadership wanted it?
Absolutely. And I have seen it in my eyes. Saudi Arabia has been transformed dramatically in the last 5 years, thanks to Vision 2030, which aims to reform the economy and the society. We have seen so much so far been delivered in terms of restructuring the system, rule of laws, for example, human rights have developed. We have seen over the last few years that the capital punishment in the country has been developed. For example, the flogging was abolished last year. Women's rights as well. Women have been given greater opportunities and freedom. Restrictions where restrictions on women uh, were abolished. Women were allowed to drive, to work in aviation, in the military. We have seen also interesting anti-corruption campaigns, which aims to restore the rule of laws. On the economic front, of course, we have seen now Saudi has become an important tourism hub, entertainment, and many tourists now coming to the country, and not just the Muslim tourists. And I think that is why we I think, yeah, I think in the last few in the next few years, of course, we will see more development in the country.
So, Dr. Nacha, do you think that the war in Yemen is going to end with this rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia? We will see some sort of a relief here now. Do you think that there is a possibility of that since normalization has started? Iran has appointed ambassador to UAE, and similarly, the foreign ministers have met. So, do you think the wars are ending now, or these proxy wars will also end? Do you have that hope?
Well, this is what we hope for. I think there is a political will from both parties. Yemen is very complicated conflict, and it needs the whole world to cooperate, not just Saudi Arabia and Iran. I think definitely this agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia will ease the tension in the Middle East and, of course, in Yemen. But on a longer term, we have to wait and see.
Let's see what comes out of that whether things change in terms of this proxy wars, because it has affected. So recently, maybe a statement you might have heard that the Saudi finance minister was saying that the aid we used to give in region, this will not be the same. Particularly, he spoke of Pakistan and I think Egypt. Do you think that this transformation is there in Saudi Arabia, that uh, we should not give money for free? So it means that do you think that the old role of Saudi Arabia in the Muslim world is changing? How do you see that statement that the aid for that used to go to the Muslim world will not be the same?
Well, I understand Saudi Arabia's move to regulate its donation and its humanitarian assistance. It is important for not just Saudi Arabia, but also for other countries that they get what they need, and this money goes to developing and for what it's being given for. In the past, Saudi has been very generous, giving money, which is part of the Saudi culture. The Saudis are very generous, and what is happening now is just a regulating of that kind of donation and aid. But that doesn't mean it will stop, of course, because this is part of Saudi foreign policy.
Yeah, that seems that's a part of the Saudi. But looking at this aviation industry, you are talking that the tourists are coming, the aviation industry is booming. Do you think that the Saudi Arabia will be able enough to have NEOM as a center of the Middle East? Because the Saudis feel that everybody, for enjoyment, for entertainment, people travel to Qatar or to Dubai, but they only come for the religious rituals. In Saudi Arabia, do you think that the norm, the city that is being built, we consider a $500 billion city that is going to transform and shift Saudi Arabia's global image? Do you think that is going to work out?
Yes, absolutely. And I agree with you. Saudi Arabia did not feel the need to attract tourists other than the Muslim tourists because they had the Muslim or Islamic tourism was huge, but now they're trying to attract other kind of tourists by responding to what the tourists want. They want modern place, something near the beach, something that they can enjoy their time there and enjoy also the culture. So Neom was built for that. Um, I agree. So far, many tourists would maybe choose Dubai or Qatar or any or the neighboring country because they started tourism industry longer than Saudi Arabia. But I think Saudi Arabia has the potential to be the top tourist destination because it has assets of soft power. It has a culture. It has diversity of geographical diversity. Every region in Saudi Arabia speak different dialect, eat different food. The climate in every region is different. This is something you don't see in Dubai or Qatar.
Yeah, that's fine. You're absolutely right. Looking at the bigger geography as compared to the other regional countries, Saudis have that. They have that luxury which many others countries may not have. Thank you very much, Dr. Najah, for your time for speaking with the NHS Media. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for inviting me.